What do you say to people that generally are like, okay, I think I have an idea, I don't really know, where you went out and took that idea out and got the feedback you needed to move forward?
The scariest part was actually when we got recognition and people were like, yeah, this is great. Let's get this thing going. For anyone out there that's listening and they have an idea that they're passionate about, that's the biggest thing. If you have an idea that you're passionate about, you don't need to have everything. You don't need to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And so many people will tell you different. I didn't. And it's something that you can learn as you go. And you also figure those things out as you go. You don't need to have everything figured out to launch a company. I think the biggest thing and the biggest hurdle that it takes for a lot of entrepreneurs is they think they have to have everything figured out before they can start. And that's just not the case.
Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. We're joined today by an awesome CEO. I've had a chance to get to meet him, Jack Espy, and he's the CEO of Spirited Hive. And we're going to talk about some things because I wanted to have him on the show because I was excited about how he put his vision into reality and then also talk about some leadership things and stuff. So Jack, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is great because I think a lot of people sometimes that I interview have these big success stories and people think, oh man, where did they start? Where are they coming from? And you really have been able to create something amazing in the last little while. And it's like the perfect entrepreneurial story of having an idea in a really rough, difficult time, the pandemic, and pulling something to action. So do me a favor, just so people get to know you, give us the origin story. Tell us when you started Spirited Hive, why you did it, and a little bit of the story is how you got it started, and then we'll dig into it a bit.
Totally. Yeah. So the whole idea started at the beginning of the pandemic. So I was actually in college. I was at USC in LA, and my whole background was real estate finance, real estate development. And I graduated in 2020, so straight into the pandemic. And I was supposed to accept the job in capital markets in Los Angeles. And unfortunately, that job fell through because it was right at the beginning. And they're like, hey, look, we're not hiring anyone right now. And I totally understood. Nonetheless, that left me jobless right out of college. And like everyone else at this point in time, I was at home mixing up one too many quarantine cocktails. And I was making two drinks for my buddies, which my two favorite drinks are Moscow Mules and Mexican Mules, or they were at the time. And I was making these drinks for all my friends during the pandemic. And they were like, Jack, these drinks are really good. You should can them. Because I was right at the beginning of the whole can cocktail boom. There's pretty much a new can cocktail coming out every single week. And sitting there and I'm like, I've got nothing else better going on. Why not? It'd be cool to create my own brand. And at this point in time, no one knew how long the pandemic was really going to last. And this would be fun to pass the time. And once the COVID's over, I'll go back to real estate finance and it'll just be a fun kind of thing to do, like a passion project. And we're all sitting there thinking about different names for this brand. And I was like, wait, guys, what about the name Mint Bee? And they're like, first of all, that's the stupidest name I've ever heard of, but why Mint Bee? And I was like, oh, because there's Mint and a Moscow Mule and Bee because they're both sweetened with honey. And they're like, dude, what are you talking about? There's no honey in either of those drinks. And
I was just going to say, I didn't get that. So you're catching me there.
Yeah. So it's funny because I'm not a mixologist. And it's funny now because everyone's, oh, you created this cane cocktail. You must be a mixologist. And I'm like, no, I just fell into this. And I was like, oh, I never knew that there was honey. There wasn't honey in the Moscow Mule. So I'm sitting there with my buddies and I'm like, what if I took a different approach at this whole cane cocktail category and made a better for you cane cocktail that was only sweetened with honey? No cane sugar, no sucralose, no any artificial sugars at all, just sweetened with honey. Because I'm really big into health and fitness and I really care about achieving my goals in the gym, but also I don't like waking up and feeling crappy in the morning after having a couple of drinks. And a lot of that comes from sugar and the ingredients that are used. So I was like, I want to take a different approach and create a better for you cane cocktail. And that's what sparked this whole idea for Hive. So then went down the road of creating one that was our tequila. So our take on a Mexican Mule, and then was bringing that to parties during the pandemic. And then my friends that were girls were like, hey, I love this idea, but does it work with vodka? So then I made one with vodka. And then my bourbon loving buddies were like, hey, does it work with bourbon? And then a gin. So then it was a culmination of this whole idea of who's your hive, who's your community, who are the people that you love to spend time with and toast to a life that is sweet with your hive. And not everyone in your hive likes tequila. They might like bourbon, gin, or vodka, but now we have all the alcohol bases. So anyone in your hive, if they like that idea of a better for you canned cocktail, we have one for them. So that was all teased out. And then it took me about 2 years to get the product to market. I was very naive to this industry. It took me about 2 years. And then we launched in May of 2022 in Nashville, Tennessee. So we've been in market for just about 2 years now.
Wow, man, guys, listen, there are so many freaking lessons in what he just said, and we're gonna break them down. But man, that's first of all, congrats. That's a great story, and also you've really been able to bring your vision to reality, which is great. But I always tell people when they're getting started because they try to figure everything out ahead of time, and I always tell them some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, you're definitely included in that. They just have an idea and they say yes, and then they go figure it out. Not only did you figure it out as you went along, but it sounds like the idea developed as you went along. In other words, you were starting with the idea and you were moving down the road when you perfected the name, you perfected the other products, you perfected the other things. What do you say to people that generally are like, okay, I think I have an idea, I don't really know, where you went out and took that idea out and got the feedback you needed to move forward? Is that something that you thought about, or did you just start doing it and it all came together?
Yeah, I literally just started doing it. And it was interesting because I was asked actually on a podcast not too long ago, like, what was the scariest part at that point? And the scariest part was then actually when we got recognition and people are like, yeah, this is great. Let's get this thing going. Then I was like, wow, like this is legit. Because for
Yeah.
so long, this was during the pandemic, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on. I have this idea. I'm going for it. Oh, I'm working with a formulator, and then I'm producing it on a small scale. And then, oh, I got a distributor. Very cool. I can sell it into retail. And then it was like people were actually buying it and we sold out. And I was like, oh wait, this is scary. Now this is real. This is
Yeah.
legit. This is a full-time company that I have to give my all into it. But if for anyone out there that's listening and they have an idea that they're passionate about, that's the biggest thing. If you have an idea that you're passionate about, you don't need to have everything. You don't need to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And so many people will tell you different. I didn't. And it's something that you can learn as you go, and you also figure those things out as you go. We didn't have this whole idea of the Hive community until months and months, almost probably a year down the road. And that's like a big thing behind our marketing. And a lot of that gets teased out as you develop the brand. So you don't need to have everything figured out to launch a company. I think the biggest thing and the biggest hurdle that it takes for a lot of entrepreneurs is they think they have to have everything figured out before they can start. And that's just not the case, I don't think.
Yeah, you definitely had 2 ingredients that I think are very common to people that really follow, and you said it. Number 1, if it's something you're passionate about. If not, you're, like, constantly, "Man, is this gonna work or is this not gonna work?" So, having the passion, and I think your job has done a phenomenal, or your company has done a phenomenal job of adding the people part, meaning if you're passionate about something, it's great, but if you also have the right people around you, it
Yeah.
helps you to stay focused on it. And so that both of those are very key principles. And I think that's a great example of that. Let me ask you this, because you said when you started, you're like, I was going down finance, I'm in college,
Mhm.
graduated, lost my job. Obviously, great that you overcame that. But you said a comment, you said, as I was going, I knew I could always go back to real estate. So you probably started the company with the idea you had a backup. What
Yeah.
point do you feel like that changed where you thought, I'm not interested in the backup, or bro, I'm all in? Because I find that a common element with entrepreneurs that really create success like you have is there was a point where you just go all in and there
Yeah.
isn't really a backup anymore. What point was that for you?
I think a lot of people have that idea of maybe that backup wasn't like a defined time in time. This was for me. So I didn't say this, but I was at NYU. So I graduated from USC, lost a job that I was supposed to get. While I came up with this idea, I was also at NYU getting my master's in real estate finance, which was completely online. So I was doing that master's program. I really wanted, like I was saying, to be in finance, real estate finance. Came up with the idea for Hive, was doing both, and then it got to the point where I was missing homework assignments with NYU, and I was missing kind of deadlines that I put in place for myself with Hive because I was juggling too many things.
Yeah.
And I literally had a moment in time where I was like, I need to just focus on Hive completely. I can't be doing both these things. And it really came down to this. idea that NYU grad school will always be around. That's never going away. I can always come back to that whenever I
Mhm.
want. Whereas
Yeah.
Hive is a specific moment in time. Like this industry is growing so quickly and it's becoming so saturated that I only have a finite amount of time that I can actually give it my all and get after it and go for it. And it was very scary. I remember I was talking to my parents about it. And at first, and my stepdad's a founder of a company and he understands, but he was also like, no, he's like, no, you're not doing this. Like, you have to
Yeah.
focus in
Yeah. Yeah.
school. You have to finish what you started. And I'm a big proponent of finishing what I've started, but I'm doing it. I was like, no, I'm doing it. I'm going after this dream that I have and I'm going to chase it. And it was super scary because there was no safety net at that point in time. I was like, oh, wow, this is like legit. It was like when I was like at the point where we sold out for the first time and people loved the brand. It was that, uh-oh moment. It's like, wow, this is legit. It's really cool to see that if I had made a different decision, my life would have been completely different. And I would have always been kicking myself of, I wish you had gone
Yeah.
after the
I'm curious because I do feel like there's multiple in a really successful entrepreneur, there's multiple points of inflection, right? One is you said, I'm going to do this. And you just started
Mhm.
going and you had it around your purpose and passion, your passion really, and people.
Yeah.
And it helped you to really get that thing going. You figured out. But there's that point of, all right, I got to go all in.
Yeah.
And when you made that decision. And so I'm curious, just one more level deeper on that.
Yeah.
That's the hard decision for most because even a great idea is going nowhere unless you go all in. What do you think was the real difference maker for you? Was it that you talked with your parents? Did you feel, because I feel like sometimes people feel like they're forced into it, like you had enough opportunity, you just had to, or was it
Mm.
that you had some good support network? What really helped you to kick over that edge of I'm in, or was it just a combination of all those things?
I think it's a combination of a lot of those things, but just my passion behind it. Something that like really was like, hey, like I love this idea. I love the product. I love the vision that I have for this. And it was right at the beginning, it was right at the starting line of it. And
Yeah.
I saw this vision of what it could be. And that first step over the starting line was let's go see what it is because it's the fleeting moment in time, especially because I was so young and it was really scary. I think the scariest part of that hesitation was I had never worked for someone ever before in my whole entire life. I knew nothing about the industry. I had to learn so much and I was very naive. But all those things is a culmination of creating great success too, because for me, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? The worst thing I could
Yeah.
do is fail. So
Yeah.
just go and see was the biggest thing. And making that first jump was a scary jump. It was a lot of learning along the way, an industry that's probably one of the most difficult industries in the world and most complex and most saturated. You learn as you go.
Yeah, it's a testament to the fact that you figure out all those details. And I think that common denominator of something you're passionate about, but also you love, because if you think about the people and the health and fitness and all that, all those components just make it easier for you to move forward. So you had probably a million different challenges along the way and you're
Mhm.
still growing. What do you think was one of them? Did you have a point in time where you had, or maybe a specific example of when you questioned whether you should keep doing this, or you had to really overcome something that you're like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't going to go the direction I want unless I get some help. Or was there any of those kind of moments that you were pretty much questioning whether you were going forward or not?
I remember the first one that I ever had. We were taking our stab at a variety pack. And this was something that the industry is very seasonal for spring and summer. Like
Mhm.
that's where we sell the products like crazy. And then it falls off for fall and winter because not that many people are drinking canned cocktails. So we were a little bit behind the gun of getting a variety pack done for summer. So we were pushing it pretty quickly into market, which was something that we shouldn't have done. We should have pumped the brakes and waited to the next summer because it was way too quickly to get
Mm.
like that to market. So we pushed the design, pushed everything, got everything done and we sent the carton off to be printed.
Oh, wow.
And I remember vividly, I was flying back from a red eye I was actually at a USC tailgate with all my fraternity brothers. So I wasn't feeling that great the next morning on that red eye back to New York. And I land in New York and I get a call from my designer and he goes, hey, we just printed 35,000 cartons of the variety pack. I'm like, yes, let's go. And he's, there's a small issue. And I was like, what's the issue? And he was like, there's a typo.
Oh,
And I go, what? I was like, wait, hold on. And there I am on the plane, like just landed. And I'm like, tired, hungover, like out of it. I'm like, wait, what do you mean there's a typo? And he goes, yeah, we spelled tequila missing the I. So it's spelled
Oh,
tequila. And my head is just racing. I'm like, what's going on? And for us, that was a lot of money at that point
yeah.
in time. It was so much money. And I was like, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me in the sense that was my mistake. Yes, we're paying people to make all those edits and decisions and make sure everything's revised, everything's
Yeah.
done. But at the end of the day, everything stops with me. As a leader of the company, I'm like, hey, that's at the end of the day, that's still my mistake. Yes, there should have been points in place for it to not pass through that. But at the end of the day, that's on me. So I was like, okay, what can we do to figure that out? And I was like sitting there for multiple days, like, I don't know if we're going to come back from this and I don't know what to do. And then we just figured out, we just kept on going and we ended up using them for gift boxes almost to influencers. And it worked out great because there was a perfect way to send something to an influencer. It had all our flavors right there. So it worked and we were fine. Yes, we took a hit on it a little bit. We've had so many other big speed bumps in the road that that are so much bigger than that. And now it's just like, yeah, you know what? You figure it out, you learn as you go. And we're not perfect. We learn from our failures. And now I look at everything. I look at every single word on
Yeah.
any can, point of sale material, all of that.
Man, I tell you, that is such a great story, and I'm sure you've been able to use that because it it goes straight to the point of so many things. Success leaves clues, right? Failure is a gateway to success. Now it's going to help you do more. You took responsibility as a leader, which I think probably inspired your team as well, because it would have been very easily to blame someone else for that, and yet you found a solution as well. So it's moving forward. So I love that, and I think entrepreneurs' journeys are riddled with like dozens of those examples that you
Yeah.
look back on and think, if I could stack all those up, most would look back at as a bad experience, but you're stacking those up as things that just helped you get moving forward into other areas. So that's awesome. What your company is based really heavily around this idea of community.
Mhm.
Why do you, in addition to fitness and things like this, but why do you focus so much on community and why is that so important? Do you feel like to your company and maybe even to most companies? How do you distinguish between community and culture? Or maybe it's the same thing for you, but talk to me about your thoughts around community and why it's such a big deal for Spirited Hive.
Yeah, totally. And this company was really built off community. Like that first night that I was making drinks with my buddies, it was built for friends with friends.
Mm,
I wouldn't have had this company if it wasn't with my buddies during the pandemic, just mixing up these cocktails. And the funny thing is that I was never meant to be behind the bar making the cocktails. I was just the least lazy one out of my friends to do it. So if I hadn't have been with my friends, I wouldn't have created this company. So this company is all derived around community. And it's something that I think is so precious in life is creating those connections with people. And at the end of the day, drinking is an occasion that bring people together. And I think everything in moderation is great and is fine. And if you're drinking safely with your friends, it brings people together and it brings connection. So that's something that means so much. And something that we're doing that's big behind this program or big behind the company is our ambassador program. And we were just talking about this before we started is that's something that we're trying to really hit home with all the markets that we're selling in is these ideas of or th- this program is meant to bring people together. So this ambassador program, we have multiple influencers in multiple different states and they bring people together through just activations or events to bring people together around this idea of who's your hive, who's your community, who are the people that you love to spend time with. And a lot of that has to do with working out or an event. We do events usually on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. We do Barry's class or a Go Ruck event or a run class or something like that. And something that I like to call type 2 fun, which is my favorite type of fun. Like you enjoy the suck. You're like, this
yeah.
sucks. But then
Yeah.
afterwards, you're like, that was a great workout. And you get to enjoy it with your friends. Like type 2 fun is never as much fun as unless you're with your friends. And then we enjoy a couple of hives afterwards and toast to a life that is sweet and all of those kind of things. Community is such a big pillar of this company. And it's something that I think a lot of these brands aren't really focusing on is bringing people together. Cause like I said, it means so much more when you're spending time with your friends,
Yeah.
especially developing this company during COVID when a lot of people couldn't spend time together. So once we launched right outside of COVID, people were loving that. Bringing people back together and bringing that sense of community back around is something that means so much to me and so much to Spirited Hive.
Yeah, man, I love it. And your success really does give some great ideas for people that might be out there. I loved your idea of type 2 fun, combining stuff that sucks that you don't want to do with friends and lifestyle. It reminds me also of what I find really good, successful companies have. People are chasing success right now, but they're only doing it for lifestyle. So if you can't have both, which I believe you can have both, chase success and lifestyle, things and the emotions that they bring. But it's funny because the whole reason I started the Daily Mastermind is this concept of the mastermind, which is two or more people coming together in the spirit of harmony to create an end goal, much like the hive, right? The hive works together in you, who's your hive. So I really love that. And I think people need to realize that a lot of people in success, entrepreneurs, look for success strategies and techniques. And sometimes the underlying message, like you're saying, community, friendship, things like that, really is the secret sauce that helps people to move forward with the strategies that they're trying to do. So I think I'm going to really recommend, if you're listening to this, to really follow Jack and find out and really read between the lines, because the way you're structuring your company and the mission and purpose you have is more than just a success story. So let me ask you this, because you started your business in one of the most, probably the most difficult times you could, a pandemic, right? A global
Mhm.
pandemic. What advice would you give in today's market? Because I know it's real competitive and things like this. If someone is looking to get their idea out there or grow to the next level, do you have anything right now you would recommend to young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are growing on, how to just really get the courage up to take their either their business to fruition or their ideas to the next level? What's some of your more practical advice today that you'd give someone?
Yeah, I feel something that's been so successful for us is making or developing a brand that's very easy for people to follow and something that is a story brand that tells a story because consumers love to not only invest in products and purchase products that are good and have good packaging, but also a brand that has a story behind it and has real meaning behind it around like for ours is obviously community. And then the founder story of how it really came to be is very organic and very easy. And I'm not saying you should fabricate something like that, but really put time, effort, and thought into how does this idea or this brand or this vision differ from another brand, vision, or whatever? And how does that make us niche? And then how can we develop a story around that or bring the story to life for the
Yeah.
consumer to really understand and for them to buy into it too?
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation because I definitely see that myself in the marketplace. That really your unique selling proposition nowadays needs to be brand and story. It's not about just your features and benefits. Like you could be really heavily promoting not that you don't, but all natural and honey and this and that,
Mm,
but your brand, your story, your community, the people really is the brand. And I think that's what separates you as well. And then all the other things layer in. So that's great
totally.
advice, man. I love that
Yeah.
advice. Where can people follow you? Where can they connect with you? And I'll put links in the show notes, guys, if you're listening, but where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I'm very active on social. And if you guys shoot me a DM or if you have any questions, just reach out to me. My Instagram's at Jack Espy. That's ESPY. And then if you want to purchase Spirited Hive, we ship to pretty much almost any state in the US, around 40 states. And that's just spiritedhive.com. And if you want to follow us for any new merch that's dropping or any new flavors that are coming out, you can follow us at Spirited Hive on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, like I said, guys, I highly recommend you check this out because even just following the model he's got, but more importantly, you've got to sometimes not just take strategies people give you, but see the meaning behind them. And the way you're orchestrating things, I think it's a testament to community, to friendship, to following your passion, and all those things. So I appreciate you spending time with us today, man. I look forward to more conversations in the future. And guys, listen, if you're listening to this show, do me a favor, share this episode. I think it's going to help a lot of people feel more inspired to follow their dreams, turn them into reality, maybe even give them some specifics that they can use in their situation. And like I said, it's never too late to start living the life that you were meant to live. But the key is you've got to take action. Don't try to have it all figured out. Like Jack said, just get going down the road. And with that said, I appreciate you being here. Look forward to talking with you more tomorrow. Once again, my name is George Wright III. You've been here with Jack Espy, and this has been the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day.